He is the only human shapeshifter of Middle-earth, a druid of sorts, able to phase from man to bear at any moment and said to grow larger as the battles grew longer. Wait, does that make him a werebear? Anyways, today we will break down his origins and powers, as well as the inspiration he instilled in his descendants, the Beornings. Lastly, we will uncover the old tales and legends that inspired the creation of...
What is that?
His name is Beorn. He's a Skinchanger.
Hello and welcome travelers to Fables of the Fellowship. If you enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe for new content every week. Now, let's get back to our giant man bear. We begin with Beorn's origins, which are hazy at best, but Gandalf does give us a hint. He says that he and his kin are originally from the Misty Mountains. However, they were driven out by the raid of orcs and goblins that were multiplying at an alarming rate. Thus began Beorn's insatiable hatred of the orcs. More on that later. The best we can dig up is that Beorn is indeed a mortal man. However, we do not know how old or in which age he was born. He is described as a great tall man with black hair, and it is written that Bilbo could have passed under his legs without ducking. So, with Bilbo being described as an average-sized hobbit, standing at 3'6", many have theorized that this confirms Beorn is 10 to 12 feet tall. However, we have no other evidence to back this up other than speculation from fans. What we can confirm is that he now lives alone near the Anduin River, protecting the surrounding lands from the evil that grows in Mirkwood. This is the home we see in The Hobbit when Gandalf, Bilbo, and the dwarves barge in uninvited. I think this is one of the scenes that The Hobbit got right. You can feel the tension in the air. Gandalf and company are legitimately fearful of their host. And the orcs are so terrified at the sight of the beast standing guard that they call off their hunt of the dwarves. So whether acquaintance or foe, Beorn might maul you at any moment. In contrast, it kind of shows the softer side of Beorn. He would protect the uninvited refugees on his land even if they were dwarves, a race that he did not enjoy due to their greedy nature. However, this could also show how much his hatred of the orcs takes precedence over anything else. Was Beorn really a big softy at heart? I sometimes find myself comparing Wolverine's feral nature to Beorn when I think about characters in other content I enjoy. Am I way off? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As humans go, Beorn had unmatched skill in the ways of masonry. Using these talents, he would build a set of stairs up to a tall island in the middle of the Anduin River. This would come to be known as the Carrock. It was nightly that Beorn could be seen patrolling the Great Staircase in his bare form, using the perch to keep an eye on his lands and to gaze towards the direction of the Misty Mountains, the home that was stolen from him. Gandalf comes upon Beorn while he is doing just this. He overhears Beorn's words.
"The day will come when they will perish, and I shall go back,"
foreshadowing the battles and war that he would face against his sworn enemies, the orcs. Beorn's primary power lies in his ability to transform at will between his human form and that of a great bear. This transformation is not merely physical but encompasses the essence of his being, allowing him to access the strength, senses, and instincts of a bear while retaining his human consciousness. In his bear form, Beorn's offense and defense are raised to extraordinary levels, making him an unmatched warrior in combat. With his senses heightened, he tracks his enemies with uncanny precision, and his roar is said to strike terror into the hearts of the most hardened orcs and goblins. It was written that the roar of his voice was like drums and guns. And he tossed wolves and goblins from his path like straws and feathers. The origin of Beorn's shapeshifting ability is a subject of much speculation among the scholars of Middle-earth. Some theories suggest that Beorn is a magician or druid of sorts, possibly granted power by the Valar, the divine beings who shaped the world of Arda. Others propose that Beorn's abilities might be the result of an ancient enchantment or a unique connection to the natural world, making him a tangible manifestation of the ancient magics that permeate Middle-earth. A reminder of a time when the world was younger and more closely tied to the land. Either way, his abilities allow him to be a bridge between the human and natural worlds, a protector of both against the spreading shadow. Speaking of this, News reaches Beorn that Smaug the dragon has been killed. He can see that the orcs from the Misty Mountains are marching towards Erebor to take part in what would become the Battle of the Five Armies. Now was his time to strike. At that moment, Beorn decided to join the larger war. Days later, he shows up near the end of the battle and the scales shift quickly in the dwarves' favor. In his bear form, Beorn was a tempest unleashed. He tore through the enemy's line with a ferocity that words can't describe. Orcs and wargs, which moments before had seemed insurmountable, were now scattered like leaves in a storm before his might. His roars echoed across the battlefield, a sound more terrifying to his foes than the clash of steel or the war cries of dwarves. They watched awestruck as he reached for the fallen body of Thorin Oakenshield, their king, and in an act of bravery, Beorn lifted him from the fray, safeguarding him from further harm. It was a moment that transcended the battle's fury, a testament to his strength and courage. Beorn's intervention was not merely a shift in the battle's tide, it was the embodiment of the hope and resilience of all free peoples of Middle-earth. To witness such power was to see the heart of the mountains themselves stride forth in wrath and mercy. In that hour, Beorn was more than a warrior. He was the protector of all the dwarves held dear. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the air filled with the solemn tones of victory and mourning, Beorn stood among the dwarves, not as a distant myth, but as a steadfast ally. His actions had turned the tide, and he stayed to see the outcome, ensuring the safety of those he had fought to protect. Only once peace was assured and the fallen were honored did Beorn take his leave. He traveled back to his lands on the Anduin and became a bastion of hope for the free peoples of those lands. It was here that Beorn would grant us his greatest treasure, the Beornings. The Beornings were the inhabitants around the Anduin that looked to Beorn as their leader. He would guide them and instill all of his good qualities unto them. He and his people prospered over the years, becoming a bastion of peace in the turmoil of the greater wars of Middle-earth. Nestled between the Misty Mountains and the dark eaves of Mirkwood, the Beornings cultivated a society that was both fierce in its independence and deeply committed to the cultivations of their land. Feels a bit Shire-like, right? Anyways, they became renowned as guardians of the Anduin's crossings, ensuring the paths remained open and safe from the shadow that crept back into the corners of Middle-earth. Their vigilance against orcs and the other dark creatures became the cornerstone of their identity. Under the Beornings' watch, their territory flourished as a haven of peace and security. They lived in harmony with the land, offering refuge to travelers weary from their journeys. Thus, it became one of the few places in Middle-earth where one could escape the evils of the world. What an awesome character, right? Well, when you understand the characters that inspired Beorn, it all becomes a bit more clear. Let's take a quick gaze into Tolkien's past. The year is 1936, 1 year before The Hobbit is published, and J.R.R. Tolkien is a respected scholar in Old and Middle English literature. However, he is sad that his country was missing its own heroes, like those of Norse mythology that he held so dear. He states, "I was from early days grieved by the poverty of my own beloved country. It had no stories of its own, not of the quality that I sought and found in legends of other lands." Tolkien has just given a lecture titled Beowulf, the Monsters and the Critics, which would become a defining work in the study of the poem. In this lecture, Tolkien defends Beowulf as a work of art, arguing for its value in understanding the human condition. This lecture reflects his deep admiration for the poem, and it can't be overstated how much it inspired his writings. In the preface to the second edition of The Hobbit, he states, "Beowulf is among my most valued sources," explaining its relevance to his own works. And let's be honest, it's not hard to see the parallels to Beorn. First, same 3 letters. But in all seriousness, Beowulf is the legendary hero of men. He was the only one with these powers, and he had the strength and courage to take on any and all evil, such as dragons and demons. Sounds familiar. But let's take it one layer deeper. Though never confirmed by Tolkien, there is another hero from Norse mythology that has an uncanny resemblance to our giant bear friend. Bodvar Bjarki was the king's champion and greatest protector of their lands. In the battle where the king is slain, Bodvar projects and controls a great bear, ravaging the enemies of his nation until the onslaught is repelled. That seems too similar to gloss over, and a story that many tie back to Beorn. I'm sure there are many that I'm leaving out, but I can only cover so much in one video. If there are other tales that you believe influenced Beorn's creation, let me know in the comments. And hopefully, you can sleep a little better knowing that the giant orc-hating werebear that sits atop the highest peak in the middle of the river isn't there to kill you, he's there to protect you. Alright folks, our time is up and the ship has come to dock in the Undying Lands. If you've enjoyed this story, I can grant you free travel every week to 10 days. All you have to do is subscribe. My sincerest thank you.